To be honest, I never really liked Intamin. They were the leading manufacturer in causing accidents and their coasters were always broken. But as I ride more and more coasters, I can't help feeling a newfound appreciation for what Intamin does. Velocicoaster is my number one. King Decal was so cool, and I even love their SFX coasters. They're one of the most innovative manufacturers in the entire world and are not scared to take risks, like at all. You can literally just look at Falcon's Flight as an example of what Intamin can do, or at least what they are trying to do. They have built the world's tallest coaster, the world's fastest coaster, and have been beating their own records over and over again. There are a total of 35 Intamin models, and we will rank them from worst to best. We already covered the worst 20 Intamin models in another video, so I highly recommend checking that out before this one. And in today's video, we will be covering the top 15 models. We have a lot of content to cover, so let's just get straight into it. In the 15th spot is the indoor coaster. This is a really weird model because how Intamin classifies it is as any traditional coaster that is indoors. So the examples that they have put here are Supersonic Odyssey, Euro Express, and the Storm Coaster. Now these coasters vary drastically. Storm Coaster is an LSM and the other two have lift hills. The only thing that these coasters share in common is they are indoors, so they are cool. It's hard to rank this model because these coasters are so different from each other, but the fact that this model can encapsulate a diverse set of roller coasters shows the capabilities of what it can do. And the bonus is all three of these coasters look super cool from a view standpoint and ride pretty well. Next up is the MultiInversion Coaster. These Intamin models are pretty much everywhere, and we group them all into one category. These are these coasters with the clickbaity heartline rolls. There are some good forces on these coasters, but the whole gimmick is definitely the inversions. Both the 8 inversion layout and the 10 inversion layout have these heartline rolls, and all these coasters may not blow you out of the water, they are a solid supporting cast coaster that does everything you would ever want them to do. In the 13th spot is the spinning coaster. We have covered a couple of Intamin spinning coasters already, but this one is their extreme version. This is what Tornado at Bakken falls under. If you don't know, Tornado is one of the best small-scale coasters in the world. It stands in such a small footprint but goes so fast, pulls amazing forces, and is so disorienting. And then you can add boost mode on top of that. It's one of the craziest coaster experiences in the world. There's also another spinning coaster in China, but we don't really know anything about it, so this model can do all these crazy things while in such a small footprint. I think it's well deserved in the 13th spot. Next up is the vertical lift model. The only coaster that falls under this category is Fahrenheit. Nevertheless, this is a super good coaster. The first drop gives insane ejector, and the inversions are super whippy and intense. There's also a good ejector hill somewhere in the mix. It's hard to judge a model based off of one coaster, but Fahrenheit highlights the abilities of the model well. The vertical lift that builds suspense and the intense layout that follows, I think that's good enough for the number 12 spot. Next up is the Hot Racer. Like the vertical lift coaster, the Hot Racer only has one installment, being Giant Dipper at Luna Park in Sydney, but one is coming up in 2024. The one Hot Racer that Intamin has built is insanely whippy and delivers with most of the forces. It has a drive tire launch that, while it may not be the strongest in the world, it gets the coaster to the speed it needs to be at. The problem is, it's really shaky and the ride is very questionable for a coaster this new and of this size. I feel like this is the one thing holding back this model from being truly amazing and competing with the RMC Raptor. I think it will remain only as a small scale additions like Big Dipper. I don't think this model is going to expand to massive 200-foot coasters, but I do think it's going to come a little bit more popular in places overseas. Starting off, our top 10 is the Intamin Megalite. These are all mega coasters that have cable lift hills and super whippy layouts. They are intense, provide good positive Gs along with ejector airtime. It's a definition of a small coaster that provides big forces. Think of something like a mini Skyrush. These coasters are barely over 100 feet and pack in a big punch, which shows what Intamin is able to achieve with this model. These coasters don't do inversions, instead they have camelbacks and whippy turns, all while having only lap bars. It's a very solid model, but it is getting replaced by the Intamin Mega. In the 9th spot is the vertical launch coaster. Currently the only coaster to do this is the Storm Coaster, which Intamin also classifies as an indoor coaster. We have seen vertical launches attempted before, mainly by Zero on Wicked. Now the vertical launch on this coaster is good. It provides that blasting off the space sensation and has some of that, oh my god, we are really doing this right now. However, Storm Coaster is not the most crazy coaster in the world. The dive loops are mad and the coaster doesn't even hit 50 miles per hour. However, it still is a good ride with the views in the vertical launch and shows the capabilities of this model and the future that it has in providing good coasters. The 8th spot goes to Wing Rider. This is another model that only has one coaster to show what it does. This time it's Furious Baco at Fuerteventura. Now this model has a lot of pros and cons, at least in terms of what Furious Baco has shown us it can do. The launch is insanely powerful. It goes to like 80 miles per hour in 3 seconds. The layout is whippy and filled with scenic close misses, and it sounds like the perfect coaster. You can draw the criticism that it's a bit short, but short and sweet is more like it. There's one problem plaguing this coaster though. It's insanely rough. This could be the reason why no more of these wing coasters were built in the past 16 years after the first one opened, but it's like headache-inducing old Vekoma type roughness. Furious Baco and the Wing Rider model are still great rides, but they need to fix the one issue with them to become truly elite. Next up is the hydraulic launch coaster, also known as the accelerator model. This model has perfected the launch. I mean, I guess everything about the launch except for the reliability. I can name so many coasters that use hydraulic launches, and you could tell me if they are good or not. Accelerator, Pop-Up Dragster, King de Cop, Formula Rossa. Like, every one of these coasters has some of the best launches in the world. There's also more traditional layouts like Madugani and Superman Escape. If a model manages to achieve the fastest coaster in the world and the tallest coaster in the world in 2 separate editions, you would think it's really good. I mean, look at Formula Rossa. That thing is so insane that they have sprinklers on the station to cool down the wheels. The thing that sets back this model is that none of these coasters are top tier. A lot of it is super gimmicky or super short. Many of these coasters are really topped in the world, like some of the other Intamins coming up. I mean, King de Cop is not even in my top 10. And you can add on the fact that they are always breaking. The hydraulic launch is super unreliable and has been improved on a lot with the Intamin Blitz. So that's why the hydraulic coaster lands here in the 7th spot. In the 6th spot is the wing model. And no, this is not a wing coaster. This is what Skyrush is. This is what Flying Aces is. The wing style cars are what defines this model. Skyrush is a hypercoaster that is super intense. Flying Aces is another hypercoaster that shares very similar features. The wing style seats are super exposed on the end, and with this super intense layout, it's a bizarre ride experience. This model does have terrible restraints that can make it super polarizing, but it is what it is. With only 2 editions, this model delivers 2 world-class coasters. Next up is the Intamin prefabricated wooden coaster. Now I am so mad I didn't get to ride ElToro when I went to Great Adventure, but what can I do? 2 accidents in 2 years, that shouldn't happen. Anyways, these prefabricated coasters are some of the smoothest wooden coasters in the world while pulling amazing forces. These coasters are mainly defined by their massive ejector airtime and huge camelbacks and first drops, but something like Balder at Liseberg has a more twister type layout. While these coasters are world class, they have shown some age over time, but I truly think this is the best wooden coaster model to this day. It's just too expensive to be built by most parks. In the 4th spot is the Intamin Giga. Intamin has made 2 Gigas and they are quite opposite of each other. One is Millennium Force that gets called Millennium Forceless because of its long drawn out turns, and the other is I-305, which is one of the most intense coasters with its fast sharp turns. The one thing that both of these have in common is speed. They are both speed machines that haul through their respective layouts. Both these coasters are world class and deserving of the 4th spot. The top 3 starts off with the Intamin Mega. The Intamin Mega is a more well-rounded ride that provides positive Gs and good airtime. You look at examples like Conda and Hyperion, these coasters are world-class and compete to be top in their respective parks. The Intamin Mega is no way big, but it's a more well-rounded experience than the Megalite. It pulls diverse forces and good forces, and that's what everyone looks for in this model. In the number 2 spot is the multi-dimension coaster. Now the only one of these built so far is 13, which is a really bad example because it doesn't do much compared to what this model is capable of doing. When you look at Fast and Furious Hollywood Drift, there's a reason why people are calling it the velocicoaster out the West Coast. If this is pulled off correctly, this Intamin multi-dimension coaster could be one of the best coasters in the world. It already has a world-class layout similar to an Intamin Blitz, but it adds the extra element of controlled spinning to tell a story. These factors all bring this model up into the number 2 spot. And in the number 1 spot for the best Intamin model, unsurprisingly goes to the Intamin Blitz. The Intamin Blitz is one of the most well-rounded, versatile coasters on the market right now. It's extremely popular, it's reliable, and it's a crowd favorite. Just look at their additions: Taiga, velocicoaster, Totatus, Batman, Pantheon. It really covers every end of the spectrum. The LSMs are so good, and when combined with an amazingly forceful and diverse layout, you have yourself world-class coasters. It's also worth mentioning that these coasters are some of the most well-themed coasters on the planet, which shows this model's diversity. They are airtime machines with other forces thrown in. It's literally the formula for success. Well, that's all for today's video, guys. Let me know if you'd agree with my decisions in the comment section down below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great rest of your day. Good.